Philip Fry has discovered that many of the challenges he must face in the year 3000 are the same challenges he faced in the year 2000, namely, apartment hunting. Fry, living at the Planet Express office, begins to interfere with business, so he is asked to vacate. Alas, he has nowhere else to go, and no family besides Professor Farnsworth to turn to. Bender, loyal friend that he is, invites Fry to move in with him. But, as a robot apartment is the size of a closet, this arrangement turns out to be suboptimal. A week of this is all that Fry can bear, so he and Bender search for a larger place, ultimately settling on a beautiful apartment that formerly belonged to a late colleague of the professor. But, just as they are settling into the new digs, a new problem arises. By a quirk of fate, Bender's antenna creates interference with the television signals to the entire floor, resulting in his forcible eviction. Fry tries to comfort his friend, suggesting he move back into his old place alone, not realizing how much Bender cared about having him as a roommate. Distraught, Bender refuses to drink, his draining power cells inhibiting his mental capacity. In his stupor, Bender slices off his antenna so he could be allowed back into Fry's new apartment. Fry apologizes to Bender for not realizing how much living together meant to him, and after a quick detour to get Bender's antenna reattached, the pair move back into Bender's old place. Once there, Bender opens his hitherto unmentioned closet, revealing a large, perfectly livable space for Fry. His living situation settled, and the conflict with his best friend resolved, Fry prepares to settle into his new home in the 31st century. Welcome to Space Podcast 3000, where the future is in the past.
So this was another really rapid-fire episode, and with the jokes, there were a lot more hits than misses.
Yeah, a lot of the jokes in this one, you do see them kind of setting the stage for things that would really kind of be staples later in the series. Just a lot of running gags just kind of got their start in this episode.
Yeah, much more than last time. And just even the basic jokes. This one has probably my favorite credits joke so far with the Futurama as seen on TV.
Because where else would you see it? Maybe the comic books.
Did the comics exist yet?
I guess not. No, probably not.
I watched it on Netflix on my phone, so that's not TV.
No, Futurama as seen on your cellular telephone that wasn't really popular at the time.
And yeah, they had it. It was the 2001, but still.
As seen on your smartphone that doesn't exist yet.
Right.
True.
Also, I love the concept of bachelor chow, just this food that he's pouring it out of a dog food bag and eating out of a dog bowl.
Because it comes to the big ass, it's Soylent, basically. It's just the big, they've been trying to develop something like that, like a complete nutrition thing. It's 1/3 of the nutrition you need for the day. And then it's just, you eat that and there you go.
But the water getting in it is just so disgusting. Having having pets, their kibble has gotten into the water before, or plenty of times, and it's just gross.
Well, oftentimes they will design kibble where you add water to it and it creates like a gravy that the dogs like. So
yeah, it seemed like a sort of a combination dry wet food kind of thing to me.
I hope so.
I mean, I think there's even a sign at some point in the series where it says that Bachelor Chow makes its own gravy.
Right. Which could be a reference to the phrase "bums make their own gravy."
I have never heard that.
No, I originally heard it on Monk, but I think it comes from other places.
I don't know. Although speaking of food, there was Fry eating the professor's tiny alien mummy like beef jerky, and just how the professor's response is just, I was going to eat that mummy.
And that's actually true, because we ate mummies. People ate mummies.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, and yeah, I've heard about that, making it into like powders and using it in paint.
Snorting it.
Colonial Europe was weird.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I noticed quite a few art references.
Oh yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, like the what's his name? The
Salvador Dali at the start, and then MC Escher.
And Andy Warhol as well, with the slurm.
Yes, Warhol, that's the name I was fishing for. Bender stating that apparently the rent on cardboard boxes is outrageous in the 31st century.
I mean, with how ridiculous rent is now, I wouldn't be surprised.
But keep in mind, Fry is still a delivery boy, so he can't afford a cardboard box, but he can afford this other apartment.
$500 a month. You can rent, live in a shoebox.
My apartment back home was so tiny, even the mice were hunchback.
There was one visual joke I had to look up. The binary code on Bender's apartment door.
Yeah, it's 36.
No, in ASCII it's the dollar symbol, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the dollar sign.
I wonder if that's a reference to, like, Bender being, this greedy kleptomaniac, or it might just be a coincidence.
I think it's a reference.
It could be a coincidence. It could be people just reading too much into it. They might have picked... I don't think they picked it just arbitrarily. I'm sure it's a symmetrical number in binary, so...
True. Although, speaking of the robot apartments, like, the building is crumbling. You'd think robots would better maintain their living space,
Well, they're heavy, so...
Although I do like the joke of Bender giving Fry this detailed tour of his apartment, and it's just the size of a closet.
And him actually doing the math is like, we only take... My apartment is 2 square meters. We only take up 1.5.
Well, to be fair, him thinking that way makes a lot of sense for a robot.
Right.
Because, he doesn't need a bed or any of this other stuff. He can just step in the closet and shut down.
Man, the fact that he has a closet and doesn't even think about it, that seems like a weird punchline to end the episode on, but it's like, yeah, okay, they're living together now, then they can, but it's like obviously the joke is that he could have ended it at any time if he just knew about this, but I don't know, it seems like a kind of a weak punchline to finish the episode on.
It seems less like it was meant as a punchline to me and more like just a way to resolve the episode's conflict.
Right.
That said, it does make sense that Bender wouldn't really consider it. Although, also his dream sequence where he just starts speaking in his sleep about kill all humans, and then he wakes up and he does the cliche, I was having a great dream and I think you were in it, which in this context is pretty funny.
Murder.
Kill all humans except Fry.
And this is followed by just the, hey, sexy mama, wanna kill all humans?
It's a look into Bender's psyche and what he wants to do.
What he values.
But yeah, there's so many references in this episode for things that would happen later, like the mutants living in the sewer, the fact that he kind of needs his... they mentioned this in earlier ones, but he's got the 5 o'clock rust.
Yeah.
Because you've been up all night not drinking, haven't you? It's like... It's just the idea they put these things backwards, that they just take the regular joke and they flip it around, and for some reason that seems to work so well, as long as they're consistent with it, Yeah,
they set up a lot of stuff, like the owls as a pest problem, which just remains consistent for the rest of the series.
Yeah, which was shown in the first episode. They just happened to have owls around, but it's clear that they thought this out. It's clear that they had these ideas, yeah, we're gonna have this idea and run with it. It's like, why owls? Why not? Right?
I think this is also the first time Bender says fun on a bun, which would become one of his other catchphrases.
Fun on a bun? I don't think I've ever heard him say that. That really does not sound like the kind of thing he says.
Yeah, Bender says it's fun on a bun several times throughout the series, and it even gets, I think, subverted in one of the Comedy Central episodes.
I guess maybe it's not as noticeable.
Yeah, he doesn't say it nearly as much as bite my shiny metal ass, but he does say it a lot.
Yeah, because it's something, everyday people would say. It's not something exclusive to Bender, except, within the show's context.
I can't name anybody I've ever met that ever said fun on a bun.
I also think this was the first time that Bender mentioned alcohol actually fueling him, because, we saw the alcohol in previous episodes, but this is the first time that it's really clarified that, it's his power source. Although related to that, it's funny that he says that, he smokes just to look cool, which is another case of a joke that provides characterization, where it shows, he cares about looking cool.
Well, yeah, you were laughing your ass off when they had the Odd Couple scene.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So to explain for our audience, as Fry and Bender are moving into their new apartment, you get this montage of them moving in, and it's set to the theme song, not like a substitute of the theme song, the actual theme song of The Odd Couple, a sitcom from 1970. And even the bit where Fry just pierces Bender's cigar on the floor with his umbrella and just holds it up disapprovingly, that is directly ripped from the show's opening credits.
How did they get away with that?
I'm not sure.
If it's a reference, it's fine, but they could have just licensed the music.
Yeah, plus they also had the extra gag of Fry then smoking that cigar himself after picking it up.
Their makeup scene, saying "You're only human" reminds me of the quote, "To err is human, to forgive is divine."
Well, in this case, to forgive is a machine.
Or to forgive is human, because Bender is only...
Yeah, they got it backwards.
When Bender's like in the apartment drinking, he's got these giant... the brand he drinks is called Lowbrow, which is just wonderful.
And also the joke of how he goes out to get more beer for everyone, and then by the time he comes back, he's already just finished the entire 6-pack.
Right. But like the fact that he's throwing these cans out, and they look almost identical to the Heineken keg cans, which were a thing in the early 2000s. They had cans that were just shaped like miniature kegs.
I've never seen those.
I don't think they still make them anymore, but they had this like advertising campaign. It was like, it's easy to throw a Heineken. It's hard to throw a keg, so throw a Heineken keg can instead.
Okay. Although with the apartment hunt, I like some of the jokes with the apartments they saw, like the MC Escher apartment with the "I'm not sure we want to pay for a dimension we're not going to use." That's a good one. Or the suspiciously fantastic apartment where
we are technically in New Jersey.
And then Smash cut to Fry saying, "Not one place even remotely livable."
I'd say I take offense to that, but it's North Jersey. North Jersey is like that.
Or the professor, just on the phone, hearing about his dead colleague, and just like, "To shreds, you say? How's the wife holding up? To shreds, you say?" I think that's my favorite joke in the entire episode. It is so dark.
Right.
But the way he says it, the delivery is so perfect.
It kind of reminds... I want to say Bob Newhart, because he had this... I don't know if it was Bob Newhart. It was one of those earlier comedians, but he had this great kind of a running bit where you'd only hear his end of the conversation on the phone, and the things that he says are just absolutely hysterical.
You can do a lot of jokes with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that style of routine a lot.
Yeah, one-sided conversations in general.
So shall we discuss the antenna in the room?
Yeah, that's one of the jokes that really didn't work for me. Just the robot antenna equals penis joke. It goes way too far, in my opinion. Like, it's not even all that funny to begin with, but they just keep going back to it, and it really is a sore spot in this episode.
Yeah, like, once is one thing, but it becomes such a huge deal. It's just, ugh, by the time you reach the end.
Ironically, I think once would be too much, but multiple times makes it okay. Because they take the idea and they don't just use it as like a throwaway joke. They use it as kind of trying to set up what robots consider important for themselves. And in his case, it's the antenna that whatever it does, it broadcasts his thoughts. It allows him to do so. And they do have some pretty decent jokes where he's broadcasting his thoughts on the woman's cell phone.
I mean, you can do some good world building with, showing what robots consider important and what parts themselves. But when you make the direct penis comparison as a joke, it's not funny. Honestly, like I said, there's a lot more hits than misses in this episode, but the misses really do stand out. Like, there's also the gag of Bender sober wandering through the city with all the neon signs passing by. Even by this point, The Simpsons had already done that exact gag so many times.
Yeah, that is kind of a cliche. I am not unless you can make the signs like really clever. I don't think that sort of bit works too well. And in this case, it's not all that great. It's just places that don't have alcohol.
Yeah, it's a joke that has not worked in years. Or also like Zoidberg's lobster claws and the whole "I made them myself" and then Hermes gets sick. That is also a super cliche and overdone joke.
And rude.
I think it would have been funnier if he doesn't necessarily get sick, but just kind of has this expression on his face like, "What do you mean by that? Explain what you mean by that."
Or have him confused, but keep eating anyway.
Yeah, either of those would have been funnier, and actually eaten, that would have been probably the best way to do it. That would have been especially funny, where it's just like...
Just he has this expression on his face like, whatever. Lobster claws.
Yeah. I mean, where do you think lobster claws come from? Lobsters. Also, there's that one background character who has just the stereotypical gay lisp, and even for the time this episode was made, that's really Not great.
He could just have... They never say anything about his sexuality. He could just speak that way.
He comes back, like, he becomes one of those recurring background characters, and he remains just this huge stereotype, and I don't like him. I do not like this character. Like, I get these stereotypes exist for a reason, but this is just... No.
Yay, Calculon's back.
Yeah, just doing this stereotype, it's not funny. If you want to make a joke based on a stereotype, you gotta subvert it somehow. Then it's a joke. If you're just repeating stereotypes, that's not a joke, that's just stereotypes.
Well, keep in mind this was made 20 years ago, so the stereotype may not have been as egregious as it is 20 years later.
Even for the time, it was kind of dated, at least to what I recall. On a brighter note, there were still some really good jokes that I did want to touch on, like Bender's, "Of all the friends I've had, you're the first." That's a good line.
Yeah, just really simple one-liners in this, but I do think the big crux of this episode is the friendship between Bender and Fry, which honestly does seem a bit one-sided at the start, because, like, obviously, it's obvious Bender tries to put up this front that he doesn't care about Fry when he actually really does, but he has to be Bender, he has to be Macho Bender and everything, but it's like, obviously he cares about Fry, obviously he wants to live with Fry, but when he can't, it tears him up.
See, the relationships between the characters really are the heart of this show, in my opinion, and Fry and Bender's friendship is a really good one. Just, yeah, that whole Bender pretends not to care, but he actually cares immensely. And then you have Fry, who's one of basically the first human to actually treat Bender like a person, not an object.
Which I'd like to see more of, like, because then the times when he does treat him like an object, it's actually really insulting to him. It's like which is kind of the crux of when I'm talking about the antenna. It's like, it's just a useless appendage, isn't it? It's like, because that's him thinking about him just like as a machine.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, there are parts of the human body that are just useless appendages, like the appendix.
Like the appendix, yeah.
I no longer have my gallbladder.
Yeah, I had mine out last year, too.
That's neither here nor there. Oh, the needle point. That's a great background joke. Just where you have this needle point that Bender puts up that just says 10 home, 20 sweet, 30 go to 10.
Home sweet, home sweet, home sweet, home sweet.
I love the subtle programming gag.
Yeah, the background gag. You could tell they have so much fun with all these background gags, especially the computer-related ones.
Or, the miniature fruit salad tree.
Oh, God, that was one of one of my best visual gags in this episode where she slips on the banana peel. It's like...
Yeah, it's... The miniature fruit salad tree is such a weird concept that it's inherently really funny, and then you have Amy just with perfect timing slipping on that miniature banana peel.
It's not just really funny, but I want one.
Yeah, same.
Same.
Yeah, miniature pineapples, miniature bananas. They are working on those. They are not miniature ones, but they're trying to make like a real fruit salad tree. It's like grafted together of multiple trees.
Yeah, I've seen like apples and pears. They're not miniature, but they're dwarf.
Well, I think if the fruits are like related, like if they're in the same genus, then you can actually easily graft them on together. Like, I think I heard about this guy who, as an art project, he's been trying to graft every species of citrus onto one tree. And citrus in particular is really good for this, but we're getting off topic. I love how this is just immediately followed by a callback to the mummy gag, with the professor bringing out this other mummy and just commenting, "He's teriyaki style."
So, that's what tore him up, was not the fact that he ate his shipment, but the fact that he wanted to eat it.
Yeah. God, there were also just so many other dialogue jokes, so many other great dialogue jokes in this episode that are really good, but way too small and numerous to list in their entirety here.
There was with the show.
All My Circuits?
Yeah, All My Circuits. You know, it's a soap opera, and it has all those ridiculous over-the-top plot twists that are associated with them.
You know that I'm metric? Yes, but I'm willing to convert.
Yeah, just take all of the regular soap opera cliches, dial them up an extra notch, up to, I think, the level of soap, and then add robots, and you have All My Circuits, which, again, I think this was also the first appearance of that, too. Oh, and it was also the first appearance of the nameless Kajigger woman, who, one of my favorite background characters.
Also the first appearance of Calculon, who appears multiple times in the future.
Yeah, Calculon becomes a nice, fun, recurring... He's almost their answer to, not Zap Brannigan, but Troy McClure.
Yeah, he's a fun character. Just the William Shatner-esque, just Shatner as a robot would basically just be Calculon. Although a weird bit of non-continuity, I guess, is Bender's antenna interfering with TV and cell phone reception, and after this is just never mentioned again.
Yeah, that is weird. The major misstep is that there was so much good continuity that they just never do it again. They never fix it.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess you can't stick with every single thing you would establish.
Maybe the fact that it was cut off and reattached doesn't cause it to interfere anymore? I don't know.
Also, Hermes' voice is a little off in this episode. Just his cadence is slightly different than it would be in later episodes, but again, it's just a normal thing where voice actors can take some time to really slide into the role. Like, going back to it now, it is very noticeable.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Also, I just realized that, Bender having a closet-sized apartment and an apartment-sized closet actually sort of makes sense. Because, like I said, a robot won't really need significant living space, but storage space could be useful.
Yeah, but the fact that he doesn't have anything in there, though, that's kind of weird.
You think there'd at least be discarded beer cans and bottles.
Right. I guess they wanted to hit the fact that it's, like, completely livable, like there's nothing preventing him from moving in there instantly.
Although, actually, looking at the hallway shots versus the size of the, closet, I don't know if the size of the building really makes sense, because those apartment doors seem much closer together than they would need to be if they all had closets of that size.
They may have slightly different layouts, because then he has a closet inside his closet, if you noticed. He has like a regular 1 meter closet inside of his closet, which is like, okay, what's the point of the other closet then?
Like, again, it was the punchline to a joke. It's just, these are the little things that I notice, because that's how my brain works.
The floor plan wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been trying to say, thank you.
Which is interesting, because you do start to see the continuity in exactly what the Planet Express headquarters looks like. Because they have, like, the main office area, then they have the garage where they kind of have their meetings, which is, like, next to the ship there. But then you have... We haven't even really talked about the start of the episode where Fry is living in the Planet Express shop.
Yeah, sleeping on the conference table.
And using their emergency chemical wash station as a shower.
And drying his hair with the ship's engine exhaust, which is a horrible idea.
Why didn't he sleep on the couch?
Good question.
Because he wanted to be the most inconvenient for everybody.
But now that you point that out, Eden, that is a very good question.
I think he has fallen asleep on the couch in later episodes. Like, he'll wake up, like, what are you doing? It's like, Bender kicked me out or something or other.
Actually, though, now that I think about it, it seemed weird to me at first that, this business, their office building would have, like a kitchen and a sort of a living area with a couch and TV. But now that I think about it, they're a delivery company. If they don't have any deliveries to run, it would make sense that they would just need stuff to just hang around.
Right, and it's an office building, so they would have a break room and everything, which I would imagine that's kind of what it is. Like, I've worked in offices before, they have the break rooms and stuff.
Isn't it also the professor's home?
Does he live there? Because I'm not sure if they've ever really shown his living quarters, if he does.
Well, he is always in his pajamas.
True. Although that is, actually, now that I think about it, a very strange omission that we've never seen, like, the professor's bedroom or anything.
I mean, would you want to see an old man's bedroom?
Fair point.
So overall, how would you sum up the episode compared to the ones leading into it?
Yeah, pretty straightforward plot, but, that's alright, and there's a lot of good jokes and references everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of times, like, just having a simple plot can just be the basis for so many jokes. You see that in a lot of Simpsons episodes, kind of, where there's like, well, we want this to happen. Well, and it almost seems like they work backward on The Simpsons. Like, well, we want this to ultimately happen. Okay, how do they get there? Okay, well, this happens. Okay, well, how does that happen? Well, then this happens.
I think the best Simpsons episodes are the ones where you can sum up the plot in, like, a sentence or two. Like, Homer goes to clown college, or Bart sells his soul, where they just take a simple premise and wring every possible joke out of it. And that's kind of what they were doing here, where it's just Fry and Bender go apartment hunting.
Yeah, it's just Fry and Bender go apartment hunting, yeah.
It's pretty good. It's got some sour notes, but overall, it's a solid episode.
Thank you for listening to Space Podcast 3000. Your three voices of the future are Nova Altman, Doug Hancox, and Eden Valerie. The theme music is Voxel Revolution by Kevin MacLeod, licensed from filmmusic.io. Find it and hundreds of other songs at incompetech.filmmusic.io. You can hear more episodes of Space Podcast 3000 on YouTube or at soundcloud.com/spacepod3k. Follow us on Twitter at SpacePod3k. Be sure to join us next time as the Planet Express crew meets a legendary starship captain in Love's Labor's Lost in Space.